All right, we're on Baja Ha-Ha YouTube channel, and I have with me Craig Chamberlain of Novamar Insurance. And we brought Craig on board to talk a little bit about insurance issues and what to expect, because there's a lot of misnomers out there about what you need when you go to Mexico. Welcome, Craig.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks for having me. Always love talking about Mexico, my second home, and sailing south.
Hey, did you do the Ha-Ha when you brought your boat down years ago?
No, we didn't. We left. We got hung up and got held up and left too late. We didn't leave till December, so missed
Wow.
it.
Anyway, for those that you don't know, Craig spent I think 2 years, right, traveling, sailing around.
No, just well, a lot of back and forth, but 6 months in one trip when
Okay.
Nate, our youngest son, was 6 years old, so that was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so before the Ha-Ha boats leave for Mexico, what should they understand about the Mexican requirements that it might be different from cruising in U.S. waters? Specifically about the TIP, the temporary import permit, is Mexico vessel liability coverage required or recommended? And what's the biggest practical insurance differences between cruising in Mexico and cruising in the U.S.?
Yeah, there's a few of them. For sure, you need a TIP, a temporary importation permit, which the Mexican government just changed from a 10-year permit to a 5-year, which doesn't impact most people too much. But that TIP shows them that you're bringing your boat to Mexico temporarily. You're not bringing it here to import it and sell it, because if you did, there's a hefty tax. So the TIP can be that process is done online. There's also people in Mexico that can help with that process, and that should also include your dinghy, yacht tender, and then describe the equipment on the boat as well. So that gets you in the country with your boat for 5 years, and you can go in and out. It's important if you are going to sell your boat to cancel the TIP before the boat's sold, so the next guy can get a new TIP and enjoy Mexico too.
Yeah, we had some problems in the past where people sold the boat, the previous owner either passed away or was not available, and boats couldn't get a new temporary import permit. That has been, they've found ways around that now, but it costs you more and it's a lot of time and hassle. But yeah, that's been an issue for years, and it's actually gotten simpler, but it is a 5-year permit now, right, versus a 10-year permit. But it's still only like $50, I believe. It's not,
Yeah, it's inexpensive.
not a
Exactly.
significant
So
expense.
it's more the paperwork, dance that you have to go through to get it done. Sometimes that can be a tangle, but yeah, getting after that TIP early to make sure there's not a prior TIP that's still, associated with that boat is important. And then as far as the liability coverage for yachts in Mexico, it's similar to what's required for aircraft in Mexican airspace or a vehicle on a Mexican highway. If you're in Mexican territorial waters, you're supposed to have a Mexican vessel liability policy written with a Mexican domiciled insurance company. So they're inexpensive, they're easy to get online. We have our own program at our company at Novamar that we put together with reinsurers and insurance company. So it's easy to do, not a big deal. And besides, complying with the law, it is good to have, in particular, with Napoleonic law in Mexico, if you do have a problem, you hit an unlit pongo or one hits you or something, there's a liability situation, you want to be able to call an adjuster right away in Mexico and not rely on the police to take you to jail to figure it out. So it's an inexpensive buffer to keep you legal and keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, that's an important point. Can you go into that? Because in the US, if you get in a collision with someone in a car or in a boat, you guys exchange information, you give it to your insurance company, but it's different in Mexico.
It is. It's interesting. We had been down here a long time, spent a lot of time here, and we've all got our little stories. But had a little wreck in Cabo San Lucas years ago. Lady ran into me. Not a big deal, but the first thing you do is call the adjuster to come to the scene of the accident, not the police. So you've got to have the insurance policy in place to have that access to the adjuster. Likewise with a boat, if we've had boats at anchor that have gotten hit by pongas and just all kinds of different things, hitting boats at night, just normal sort of collisions. And it's really important to have that Mexican liability. You're dealing with the federales without any assistance, and boats get chained to the dock, and it's a little tense. So yeah, it's better just to do things right.
Yes, absolutely. So what's the ideal timeline for people in the Baja Ha participants that are going to go down to have their policies reviewed, and what's the biggest last minute delay that they might have with their insurance?
Say, getting yourself sorted out for Mexico navigation earlier rather than later is certainly better. Um, there's only a few insurance companies that will insure boats in Mexico for a long period of time. If you're just doing a couple of week trip and you've got good experience and a well-found boat, that's fairly simple. But if you're planning an extended trip, maybe even through hurricane season, there are only a few insurance companies that'll write that. So if you're sure or pretty confident you're going to go to Mexico in the next year, it's good to reach out to your insurance agent and say, here's my plans. What do I need to do? And that typically comes down to a current out of the water survey, since these are mostly sailboats, loft rig inspection, or possibly the underwriter will ask you to replace the standing rigging if it's older, like 20 years or older. Um, and then sailing resumes. They like to have people on board that have done the trip down the coast or up the coast, or at least similar trips. You and I, Chuck, we've done, I don't know, dozens of trips up and down the coast to Baja, mostly racing, but you're on your own. You're not going from Marina del Rey to San Diego. You're really on your own. So if you have a problem, the insurance companies recognize that a small claim in the United States, a small grounding, is probably going to turn into a total loss. So they really look at the
Yeah.
experience of the people, the seaworthiness of the boat, and those kinds of things.
Yeah, knock on wood, we haven't had too many big issues on the Ha-Ha. I mean, we've had a couple. There's a total of 3 boats have sunk. But that's after
Right.
31 years and, hundreds of boats each year. So, but
No,
yeah,
that the organization that Richard, now you're doing, I mean, it's fantastic. It really is. The pre-prep, the
yeah,
group that goes down together, all of the assistance and help. Uh, it's a great way to get south, especially if it's your first time.
yeah. So does your standard US policy automatically cover Mexican waters, or do you usually need a specific Mexico navigation endorsement?
Right.
Like a
Yeah.
separate
Typically,
policy?
you need an extension, a navigation extension, if your current insurance company is capable or willing to do it. If not, then it turns into looking for different coverage with a different insurance company, and start that underwriting process.
Okay. And then what documents should a cruiser have ready before contacting an insurance company over Mexican? Uh,
An itinerary, which that's always rough with people cruising. We all don't like to get hemmed in too far. That's why we've got sailboats. We want to go cruising, but yeah, as much as you can put together a reasonable sailing itinerary. You're going to do the Ha-Ha. Obviously, that gets you to Cabo at a certain period of time, and then after that, and you're sprung free from the Ha-Ha. Do the Sea of Cortez. How far south were you going? You do Vallarta or Zihuatanejo. And then the next big question is, what happens June 1st when hurricane season starts? Are you going to
yeah.
come all the way north to San Diego or further north, or keep the boat in, one of the marinas here, Barra or PV or Cabo or wherever. So just put that into a rough itinerary to provide to your insurance agent, and then they'll ask questions. When's your last survey? Where are the boating resumes? Things like that.
Yeah, so when you're in Mexico, obviously each company that you represent has different requirements, but give kind of a basic requirement of what happens May 1st through October 31st of where your boat needs to be and or what your plan needs to be.
Sure. Yeah, it comes down to a few things. Insurance companies, just in general, they don't like what they call absentee ownership. So that's somebody that lives more than a few hundred miles away from their boat. So, for example, if you keep your boat in Mexico and you live in Seattle, well, they know you're not going to be with your boat all summer. So they want to know that you have a really good hurricane plan. Ideally, the boat would be hauled out of the water and tied down to jack stands in a good, secure boatyard. But like everywhere these days, there aren't enough facilities to accommodate all the boats. So plan B can be keep it in a good marina with good security. Hire somebody that looks in on the boat every week or two to check the bilges, check the dock lines. If there is a problem with a storm approaching. Double up dock lines, make sure all windage is removed completely, dodgers, dinghies, whatever else you can get down below. And then, just sort of think like an insurance company underwriter that you're exposing your assets. So you want to protect them as much as possible. So just by having a good caretaker plan, that's helpful. And the sort of the different ports that insurance companies like, kind of number one's probably San Carlos, Guaymas, up at the northern end of Sea of Cortez. Puerto Vallarta historically has been very good just because of the geography here, even though we're pretty far south. And then, La Paz, some of the companies are okay with La Paz, others fine with Loreto up in the middle part of the Sea of Cortez. Barra de Navidad's fairly protected. So, have your plan, talk to your agent, and they can probably find a company that'll accommodate you. Or if not, sometimes people just refer people to Novamar because we do have some pretty good expertise and some capabilities. So
Yeah, and those of you watching, Novamar has offices in Seattle and California and Miami and Mexico and on the East Coast. So they have specialties throughout the area. So they're one of the most knowledgeable in that. Besides, Greg spends half of his time in Mexico, so he knows
what
that
about it
area
right
pretty
now?
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So say you're going down with the Ha-Ha, like most cruisers start with a plan. Like, hey, we're going to go down, we're going to spend a year in the Sea of Cortez, and then we're going to go to Tahiti. Then, like most cruisers, only about 20% do what they think they're going to do when they leave. And so they meet somebody, then they decide they're going to go through the canal, or they're going to stay in Mexico for another year, or just do southern Mexico. They might even, some guys like to go to Hawaii and then back up north to Alaska. So say you give your float plan for that first year, like what kind of time frame or how often should you talk to your agent about the changes in your float plan as you're going down there?
Right. Well, if you submit the float plan, like you said, your itinerary, and it's going to change dramatically. Like instead of coming back to San Diego, you decide to go to Tahiti, or through the canal or whatever. It does impact things because unfortunately, there's really not one insurance company that can do all that. Or what I should say is there are some companies that'll do part of that trip. There might be one that'll do the whole thing, but they're going to be more expensive, and the coverage conditions aren't quite as good as some of the other carriers. So you wouldn't go to them if you wouldn't give somebody an itinerary that's going to take you through the canal and over Europe in 1 year if really as far as you're going is Zihuatanejo. So anytime a plan is changing, just let your agent know and he can start sourcing insurance for it. And try to be as realistic as you can too. And don't what insurance companies and especially agents don't like to hear is, well, I'm either going to go to Cabo and come back, I'm going to go to Tahiti and keep going, or I'm going to go through the canal to the Caribbean and maybe I'll go across the Atlantic. It's like you can't take five I might do's to an underwriter because their quickest answer is no. So you
Yeah,
don't
I
want
do.
that. We don't want that. So try and
Excellent.
be realistic. And like you said, like you alluded to, Chuck, so many people get to Mexico with plans to continue on, and it's just a fantastic place. It's just there's so much to see in the Sea of Cortez and the Costa Alegre down where we are, down to Manzanillo. I mean, people really end up spending multiple years here, and then do their longer trip later. That we see that all the time.
Yeah, we have some people on the Ha-Ha that have they're on 17 years in the Sea of Cortez.
Is
I
that
mean,
right?
that's
Wow.
that's kind of extreme, but you find your little favorite spot and you know the systems and the weather and it's hard to beat. People travel all around the world and want to come back there. So um,
It's amazing to me as I fly back and forth every couple of weeks down here, going down the sort of the spine of the Sea of Cortez. And there's just so much incredible, I don't know, just so many coves and places to go and to explore. So close to the craziness of Los Angeles. It's just right there. So
well, I know.
yeah, don't rush.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I did my first AHA, I realized, wow, this is different because like you and I, we've raced down and we've gone past just these amazing spots dozens of times. And then when you stop, you're just like, this is surreal. It's amazing. So and that's on the outside. The inside's even better. So
Insight's way better. Yeah. Lots more, obviously, lots more anchorages and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, do you have anything else you would like to share before we sign off here?
I would just say, what we're talking about is the trip itself, and I know some insurance issues and stuff, but at least for me, it's the people down here. They're just the warmest, nicest, friendliest, funniest darn people. It's a great culture. I love it. The food, of course, is fantastic. So it's more than just sailing down the coast. It really is. It's a life experience. It's great.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Craig.